So I'm putting the link in a chat where the YouTube live streaming is happening. So if anybody is interested in passing it forward, that can also be done. So I'm putting the link in a chat where the YouTube live streaming is happening. So if anybody is interested in passing it forward, that can also. Ma'am, at 6:15, should we start?
Yeah.
Okay, so namaskar and good evening, everyone. I'm Samhita. I'm going to be the host for the evening today. And hoping so, if the cyclone permits and the connection remains stable, I'll be the host till the end. Otherwise, my colleague will take over if required. Wishing you all happy International Museum Day. Warmest greetings from India to all our colleagues across the world. Since 1977, on and around 18th May, this day is celebrated to promote the role of museums around the world, coordinated by ICOM, International Council of Museums. Every year, to mark the day, some enjoyable and free-spirited activities are carried out, centered on a unique theme proposed by ICOM, which comes from the discussions and concerns within the ICOM community. The theme for this year is going to be the future of museums, recover and reimagine. Museums, their professionals and communities, in the word of ICOM, are invited to create, imagine, and share new practices of co-creation of value, new business models for cultural institutions, and innovative solutions for the social, economic, and environmental challenges of the present. To discuss such an interesting and the need of the hour topic, today we have with us subject experts representing different national and international heritage sectors and museums. Our speakers today represent institutions such as Ministry of Antiquity Egypt, Ulen Santulu Museum Indonesia, Cultural Heritage Agency Netherlands, the first museum of India and the seventh in Asia, the Indian Museum in Kolkata, the National Museum New Delhi, the Regional State Museums of Bihar, the famous Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum, Pune. We are extremely grateful and honored to have all of you with us today. I would like to take this opportunity to also mention that today's webinar is a sequel to our panel discussion of 18th April celebrating the World Heritage Day. The subject of that day was Heritage in Museums in New Normal, where senior museum professionals such as Dr. B.R. Mani, who is the former Director General Museum, National Museum, New Delhi, Professor Rajiv Lochan, former Director, National Gallery of Modern Art, New Delhi, Dr. G.S. Rautela, former Director General, National Council of Science Museum, Dr. Andrew Fleming, etc., expressed their views along with many other experts from the fields of archaeology, tourism, policymaking in government sectors and private sectors as well. In continuation to that, today our topic for the webinar is role of museums in drawing the world together in the new normal. So now to kickstart the event today, I would like to invite Ms. Kalyani Prasad to deliver the welcome address. Ms. Kalyani is the Strategic Marketing and International Development Specialist with over 20 years of experience in United Nations across 10 countries with 20 different languages. Her profile includes working with UNICEF, Malaria Consortium, Algol Africa, Saatchi and Saatchi, and others. She has worked very closely with national governments, policymakers, partners, stakeholders, academic institutions, business leaders, and innovators to provide high-impact leadership, collaboration, and management. On behalf of the team, I welcome you, ma'am, Ms. Kalyani Prasad.
Thank you very much, Samhita. Hello, everyone. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really pleased to see you all here today, and thank you for coming to this webinar. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the International Museum Day celebrations. I'm especially thanking you because you managed to make it despite a time where the world and the country is witnessing one of the most stressful and traumatic times in the recent history. So it's doubly, I think, a way of feeling better about doing something where we can come together and forget it for a brief moment and get a respite. I'm pleased to invite participants and non-participants, presenters, listeners, art and heritage enthusiasts, and everyone else who have kindly taken the time to attend the webinar, and hope you will enjoy the next 2 hours. I would also hope you can join our future programs and make this a vibrant community. It's a lovely experience walking around a museum by yourself. While this may have been said by Brad Pitt, every art and heritage lover would have said that over and over again. I confess it's true in my case too. In the 13 countries that I've worked and visited, my favorite getaway were always the museums that helped me understand the background of societies and appreciate the unique cultural prowess and abilities. Things that speak to us like nothing else can. From India's own museums in 8 states that a chance to visit, to the MoMA in New York, the California State Museum that showcase cultures that now we read about only in books, to the British Museum, 8 museums in Africa, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. South Sudan, unfortunately, was yet to have a museum as several decades of war had competed for other priorities. I'm happy to have arranged a museum in Egypt, and I hope to encash that at the earliest opportunity. This lucky exposure to my fascination with cultures in the course of my work helps me in welcoming you. Initially, I felt I may be out of the flock, but I think I sort of can appreciate where you people come from and how much of hard work you actually put in to make museum such a wonderful place to actually enjoy oneself. And it is to celebrate the International Museum Day and the spirit of globalism and oneness with the world that this world needs more urgently than anything else. This day is also dedicated to people like you who live, eat, drink, and breathe heritage and married to the cause to create increased awareness about the past, forge connections across the world, and be the cultural ambassadors of their countries. What can be a better topic than to discuss the role of museums in drawing the world together in the new normal? And who better than Bharatiya Dharohar Evam Sanskriti, a non-profit service institution that works across India with the aim to serve society as a fountainhead for cultural heritage and dying arts for this webinar to mark this occasion. BDS is a group comprising eminent historians, museologists, curators, art archaeologists, academicians, historians, and a set of other complementary people so that they can optimally use their collective knowledge base, experience, and professional capabilities and understanding of India's heritage and traditions. Mrs. Kedarishwari, founder of BDS, believes that culture is a public domain and passionate people from societies, foundations, partnering with governments can help in making it thrive. She would know this best due to her past experience that is extremely rich, ranging from archaeology to culture, serving as Additional Commissioner of Heritage, Curator, Education, PR, Photography, etc. She also has been the Fellow of the Museum Excellence Program in 2013, Chicago Art Institute, and a Charles Wallach India UK awardee. In a world that is increasingly connected and interdependent, it has become more essential than ever to come together in every possible way to cooperate, champion, and consolidate the protection of our heritage in every part of the world. We owe it to the world, our children, our coming generations, to safely pass it on to the next. Besides conserving, preserving, and showcasing our heritage, our shared heritage should help us grow as one world, reduce tensions and violence in societies, and work towards betterment of humanity with peace as the watchword. While it takes many factors to help ensure heritage across the world, the topmost would be the political will, which if we can ensure, I'm sure the heritage world can be much better, much better than what we are today, and it can actually thrive much aggressively. Museums are spaces that essentially come alive when you visit and experience it, as it affords a throwback into history. I would love to touch every exhibit, I can't. I would love to photograph every exhibit, I can't. But I think that would be an ideal way for anyone to experience a museum. Would the experience change forever? Will online exhibits and digital events replace the physical experience? Can new technologies such as augmented reality, holograms, and HoloLens give us a better experience without leaving the comfort of our homes? How do we deal with the new normal is a question that will be explored in depth by speakers who have deep insights into the topic. We hope to find some answers. I once again welcome you to the webinar and hope it enriches our shared experiences and take back valuable thoughts that can turn into actions. Thank you once again. Over to you, Samita.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such insightful and kind words. Before moving forward, I just want to request one more time to all our audience members, please make sure that your microphones are muted so that we can avoid all sorts of disturbances during our broadcast, streaming. Also, please use the chat box if you have any comments, feedbacks, questions during the speaker's presentation, so we can get back to those questions after all the speakers are done. So now I would like to invite Professor Rajiv Lochan for delivering the keynote address. Professor Lochan was the former director, National Gallery of Modern Art, New Delhi. And as I've learned about it from some time, that he likes to be introduced on top of everything as a very well-known, loved and respected teacher. And being students in the profession, we welcome you, sir, with all our heart. I still have your previous speech in my head when I heard you for the first time last month. And I'm personally looking forward to this speech a lot. So, Mr. Rajiv Lochan. Sir, you're on mute. You will need to unmute yourself.
Okay, is that okay? First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Kedareshwari of the Bharatiya Dharohar and Sanskriti, this institution that has invited me to deliver this keynote address. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. To tell you the truth, while I was listening to the prelude, I thought I'd start with two personal thoughts, which I'd like to articulate as: ideas can be hypothetical, but they need to be governed by their own logic to formulate their own meaning. So the idea is you need to work out a hypothetical structure whereby you raise your question and you make your answer. And my answer to this is, fantasy is the basis of all hypotheses, as much applicable to science as it is to art, because creativity is the common denominator. I think we as museum professionals, artists, or dealing with culture, need to be creatively inventive, using technology, sensibility, thought, critical thinking to be able to address this current or futuristic issue of dealing with the future. But as a practicing artist, an academic, and a museum director for over 3 decades, and having closely observed the museum revolution around the world for over almost 2 decades, my work has provided me some deeper insights into challenges faced by museums, which we need to address in order to keep our spaces alive, buzzing, inviting, and especially with this new challenge of the new normal. I distinctly recall that the conventional approach which the museum was being referred to or as seen was akin to that of in fact, I have myself heard this word called Ajaib Ghar, a space that stored antiquities and objects which had something to do with history, but were never treated as living objects that had history embedded in them, which need to be inferred, revealed, and realized. That a museum was actually a living space celebrating our past. I'm again reminded of this wonderful quote. I'm very fond of Marcel Proust, and who said, I quote, each one of us is similar and dissimilar to each one of us, as many as there are eyes and minds that awaken every morning. The role of a creator is to provide an image to it, because our observations are not mere passive records. So how can interpretation be only of a kind? Gives us ample opportunity to reinvent ourselves. Museums are meant to serve as proactive rather than interface zones or institutions. This will include the need for collective efforts on the part of various subsidiary and central organizations in order to disseminate ideas and worldviews in an educated and involved fashion. Such notions rest on the realization that research and restoration should not be approached and implemented by solitary means alone, but with joint collaboration and partnership with a sense of interdependence. I emphasize this word, interdependence. Before we can face issues rather than raise them, address rather than question them, it is essential to allocate and diversify the realm granted to the museum. It is an institution with public motive, or an individual entity whose terms are complementary to and fulfilled by the public. Like so many other complexes, there is a need to adapt a middle path which is alternative yet practical. We need to bridge both the aspects. Institutions must undergo an evolutionary cycle so as to incorporate seemingly disparate and binary aspects of ideology on ground reality with a single set of interrelated issues for which there are effective solutions. Even though we are all bound by monetary and infrastructural limitations, we must also realize that some of the challenges evolve outside the museum environment. From the structural and conceptual point of view, museums must therefore compete with other cultural and entertainment avenues and technology for people who visit or wish to involve themselves. Up until now, museums had focused greatly on artifacts or historical value, which have been seen through the spectrum of Western approaches and treated as visual evocations of a cultural past dominated by a political and social elites. Such a position is getting less and less acceptable. We must now realize that the position and purpose of museums goes far beyond history into notions that actually accommodates heritage, such as cultural contemporaneity, and our lives among living artists who transcend and use traditional means to communicate a sense of the world. Therefore, in a new paradigm, the lives of our museums are an irreplaceable cultural resource for which there must be collective and collaborative responsibility shown by all of us. In a world that faces problems of identity, of nationality, of security, there lies an imminent threat to heritage and the sanctity and endurance of our respective cultures. In museums are there forums of direct experience rather than awareness alone, but must establish links with social and economic character of the city in the country. For many years, we have, as we know, the East has been given a third world status. Nomenclatures such as these have gone way beyond their worthy and ability to create a sense of liberty for those who strive to interconnect East and West in a sensitive and bilateral manner. The only world that we must recognize is the one of recuperating space and of timelessness, the museums and galleries provide us part of their agenda for collaboration. At a moment, museums have begun to address an international arena, and scope has created a good and responsive confrontation between the worlds and has innately part of single network. This will single yet another opportunity to integrate scholarly knowledge into the management process. I think there should be a global approach to the idea and foundation of our museums that will take into account local traditions, vernacular intentions, national management, international outlook, approaches, and collaborations. The cultural values of historical and grand archaeological legacies need to be recognized in this fashion and identified as true repositories of our world. Such can only be implemented and considered as viable options if we create standards for future of our museums, monitoring, and most importantly, quality control. By this, I mean, in order to regenerate our intentions in a meaningful manner, there must be a core and a buffer zone that allows us to take chances with new ideas and avenues of research and development. These zones should be able to encompass all the major natural and cultural resources at our disposal so that the cultural aspects of museology can be dynamic and welcoming to all citizens. I've tried to take a much more holistic approach in my presentation. In this regard, I'd like to revive the idea and enterprise of an exhibition that occurred almost 150 years ago. Of this exhibition, Henry Cole wrote, I quote, "The history of the world, I venture to say, records an event comparable in its proportion of human industry with that of the great exhibition of the works of industry in all nations in 1851. This was held at Hyde Park, London, from the 1st May to 15th October 1851. A great people invited all nations to a festival to bring into comparison the works of human skills. It was carried out by its own private means, was self-supported, and independent of taxes and employment of slaves, which great works had exacted in ancient days. This was one of the largest exhibitions of Oriental and European arts and crafts, juxtaposed with skill and the need to generate responses from an alert audience. It was then that the expectations were organized to the remotest places, encouraged through and with museums that generate a need to exploration and discovery, a concerted need to utilize and compensate people and cultures. Similar ventures are necessary even today with technology at our disposal. Even today, as linked by archaeological means and enables a trans-culture interaction of a socially diverse people. The above is the most essential in order to see our organizations as units within which both conservation and development can be considered and brought into harmony through the operation of conceptual and global-based heritage management systems. One way of doing so is via a comprehensive database, which must be accessible to the public so as to mark a starting point of an egalitarian approach to management and interpretation of cultural information. This is extremely helpful for us as other professionals from linked fields may even encourage and identify ways in which the system can and must be updated. This kind of an objective can help bridge the enlarging gap between our knowledge of events and their truth. What is most necessary then is a critical approach that can retrieve and rescue material lying in the very depths of our collections. Reviving what is known with a renewed perspective is always useful for exercising a new set of values by which we might engage with modernity. The challenge being how lucidly we might be able to report and expose those very materials. As collections grow, given their need to grow, so does the need to use them as a means of dialogue with heritage and archaeology. Museums have made great strides in their ability to cope in increasingly complex and competitive environments. While these adaptations may be a key to survival, ensuring that our museum matters is the key to success, not compromising the experiential phenomena that a museum only can provide. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful and very, very inspiring address. And I think from ma'am and my part, I can say that we have a lot to think about for all our activities coming ahead. And we will seek your advice time to time.
Well, it was purposely drafted with all this in mind. And I would like to point out, this was something that I started when I joined the National Gallery of Modern Art in 2001, and I have re-edited it. And this has been published by HarperCollins in their publication. So you can find references to it.
Definitely. So we are very lucky that we got to hear about something which has been coming from years and getting modified over a period of time. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for that opportunity.
Our pleasure, our honor to have you.
Well, the pleasure is equally mine.
Now, I would like to move on to our speakers of the evening, which are going to be carrying forward the main theme of today. As a starting point to talk about relevance of museums in the present new normal, I would like to invite on screen Dr. Arvind Mahajan. He is the Regional Deputy Director, Museums, Government of Bihar. And I will try and restrict myself to the shortest of the speeches, and let's hear the speakers. Welcome, sir. Sir, you're on mute. You'll have to unmute.
Thank you, Samita. Do you hear me?
Yes, yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you. First, I wish you all a happy International Museum Day. And I'm grateful to the organizers of this get-together for giving me a chance to speak on this August occasion. My paper is in two parts. The first, the core theme of this webinar, role of museum in drawing the world together in the new normal, and then the second part, relevance of museum in the present new normal. First of all, I would like to speak some words over the. It has generally been defined as a state to which a society, etc., settles following a crisis, and when this differs from the situation that prevailed prior to the start of crisis. This term was first employed in relation to First World War and in similar situations aftermath. The pandemic COVID-19 to stalled the world and put the humanity in crisis. All the activities stopped and rather closed the human beings behind the doors. With pandemic slowing down roughly from December 2020, the new normal began in India and the social activities started to crawl, but it couldn't go long. From the mid of April 2021, the phase of, I would say, new abnormal began, which again brought the society to halt, and the phase of new normal 2 is yet to begin. The role of museums in drawing the world together in new normal is the theme of this get-together. We had the first-hand experience in this matter with organizing Museum Biennale 2021 under the aegis of Bihar Museum Patna. The core theme of this Biennale was connecting people, connecting culture in changing times. The Biennale was inaugurated on 23rd March 2021 by Honorable Chief Minister of Bihar and continued up to 28th March 2021. The entire event was virtual, which comprised 2 days, I say 23rd and 24th March International Virtual Conference. In this conference, eminent national and international speakers like Neil MacGregor, a British art historian, Oscar Pujo from Spain, Madrid, Javier Barron from Spain, made their deliberations on different issues of art and museum. From March 25th to 28th took place the master classes in which noted museologists and art historians engaged classes. In addition to these, altogether 13 museums participated with exhibition of the signature collection, of course in virtual mode. This Biennale was a grand success, and we had the first-hand and hitherto practical experience in how a museum can draw the world together on a single platform. One thing I would like to mention here that originally this Biennale was planned to hold in 2020 in the month of March and was to be a 3 months event. But due to COVID, this but due to COVID, it couldn't take place and we have to postpone the event. And in the new normal, I think this was the first big event in the museum domain, not only in India, but in the whole world, and was successfully executed in virtual mode. Other thing which I personally feel that virtual exhibitions, though cost effective and easy to execute, and having a wide reach too, can just be an alternative, not replacement to real-time exhibition. Being a student of art, I feel one cannot appreciate an art object without its 360-degree viewing, and the intricacies can be enjoyed only with mere viewing. The virtual seminar and conferences too have their own limitations. These virtual exhibitions, seminar, conferences, etc. may be relevant in the new normal only. Though virtual mode has its own limitations, but the audience reach on these platforms are wider and more diverse, and that prepare a platform for global dialogue. I would like to quote in relevance to the role and relevance of museums in general in new normal, that in 1890s, when New York City was fighting against tuberculosis, in addition to the awareness program against the spread of bacteria, it gave an opportunity for the people engaged in different sectors to change the way they look at things, to rebuild infrastructure, to make the public to a new way of life in contemporary social milieu. This is just an example of how the crisis drive a way to draw experiments with what is available in time and space. The second example may be that of Hiroshima Museum of Peace and Nagasaki Atom Bomb Museum in Japan. The Hiroshima Peace Museum was established in 1955 when Japan was coming over to the normal from the phase of new normal after the World War II. In phase of pandemic, when the museums are closed, and in a new normal when people avoid to visit a public place like museum, we should have relook at the collection of the museum to redesign the community engagement with an object to ease out the negativity prevailing in the masses. Finally, the modern museums, of which Bihar Museum is an example in India, where augmented realities and virtual realities both go side by side, are indeed reflection of changing times, be it normal or new normal. And for the purpose, the idea of hybrid museum is a moot question. With interactive nature, the museum space has turned into one of impressive experiential interaction. Their learning is no longer a two-way process, but with the help of cognitive tools, one can learn by himself. The concept of informal learning in the era of digital world necessitates a platform for public participation so as to add value to community engagement. The museum as driving force for social change is still a new concept. Nonetheless, it is an important space for exploring the possibilities as incubators of ideas, designs, and social impact. Certainly, the museums today demand greater creative engagements with community-based on an updated digital literacy. In India, the state of Bihar is pioneer with Bihar Museum, to be followed by forthcoming redesigned Patna Museum, Buddha Samyak Darshan Museum at Vaishali, APJ Abdul Kalam Science Museum Patna, Power Museum Patna, and so on. Thanks all.
Thank you so much, sir. It was quite a reality check that we all needed to go ahead in that direction.
Thank you, Arvind.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, give us the latest, diaspora of the Bihar Museum. Very glad to have heard you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Now, taking the line of thought further from this point, our next speaker is going to be talking about a virtual museum of the 21st century. I would like to invite Dr. Vandana Sinha. She's the Director, Center for Art and Archaeology, American Institute of Indian Studies. During her association with CONA and AIIS over last 18 years, Dr. Vandana has headed several national and international research, documentation, and archiving projects of the center. Currently, she is collaborating with many international institutions for the work in the field of digital cultural heritage. We are glad to have you, ma'am, Dr. Vandana Sinha.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Samhita. Good evening, all of you. I'm thankful to Dr. Kedareshwari and Bharti Dharohar and Samskriti for this opportunity to speak today in the webinar on roles of museums in drawing the world together in the new normal. I was listening to Mr. Arvind Mahajan. I totally agree with you that virtual museums cannot replace actual physical museums. But today, since I represent a virtual museum, I'm going to advocate a virtual museum. So about 1.5 years back, the museum world was in agreement with the importance of having an online presence, and many had established a formidable existence on the web. Those who were apprehensive, the pandemic has unfortunately given them a hard push and made them realize that the virtual world is today normal. Today, I'm going to talk about the Virtual Museum of Images and Sounds, which is an online museum created by my organization, the American Institute of Indian Studies. Give me a minute to pull out a PPT. So that I could explain it to you a little better. My organization, the Center for Art and Archaeology of the American Institute of Indian Studies, is a renowned research resource, and we maintain a large resources for study of Indian art, architecture, history, archaeology, and related subjects. Almost a decade back, we also felt the need to reach out to varied audiences, make them interested in our dharohar, our heritage. And that's how our online museum, the Virtual Museum of Images and Sounds, came into being. We got support of the Ministry of Culture, Government of India, to set up the museum. It's a work in progress. VMIS is constantly growing, being enriched and expanding. You will find us online at the address given on this screen. As I already said, we are a research center of AIIS, so expanding our horizon and becoming an online museum was challenging but interesting. The research center of the AIIS, including the Center for Art and Archaeology, which we are, the other research center, the Archives and Research Center for Ethnomusicology, also known as ARCE, became the contributors. The CA presented its visual collections and ARC the collection of music. We curated our contents in the form of displays, galleries, exhibitions, and even as a library. The art and music collections were showcased in their historical and cultural context, as well as were mapped by the regions. So unlike any physical museum, VMIS houses also monuments, 3D models, and virtual walkthroughs of those monuments. In addition, music and audio-visual recordings, sculptures, paintings, terracotta, drawings are the other types of objects that you will find commonly in any other museum. You will find in VMIS as well. Through VMIS, we provide a complete context to an artifact by juxtaposing art objects against architecture as well as music. We enrich it by related publications and also connect it with other contents on the web. This slide will give you an idea of the range of tangible objects that we have interlinked through the virtual museum. You see, VMIS knows no boundaries. It's limitless. I say a virtual museum helps build bridges. It unites the artifacts scattered all over the world, housed in museums and private repositories with their siblings, such as architecture, arts, and music, from that region where they all originated. I'll give you an example here. Suppose you wish to look at the art curated during the Gupta period, which, as most of us know, refers to a historical phase of India. You will be able to retrieve temples, sculptures, coins, paintings, etc. of that period simultaneously. For instance, you see in this slide a Gupta monument from Bhitargaon, Uttar Pradesh. A terracotta tile from this temple that you see here is now housed in the State Museum, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. There are some great pieces in Los Angeles County Museum also from this place and from nearby regions like Ahichatra and Bareilly. But you will find all these objects on VMIS because it has allowed us to network museums not only from India, but also from other parts of the world. I have also shown here a Gupta coin of the King Samudragupta and the painting from the Ajanta caves, patronized by the Vakatakas, the contemporaries of the Guptas. This is how VMIS gives you an overview of a period by bringing all artifacts together. Here is another example as how a virtual museum facilitates relationships among different types of materials, such as in this case, images and sounds. While talking about images and sounds, what can be, what can better represent images and sounds other than Ragmala paintings? So we have a large number of Ragmala paintings documented from museums across the country. The ARC has an extensive documentation of Indian music. We created a fusion of both and came up with an exhibition on the grandeur of musical melodies, which enables you to visualize a musical mood and at the same time, listen to the raga, which is associated with that mood. I encourage you to visit this exhibition on VMIS and enjoy the experience. Nothing can really replace the charm of interacting in person with the monuments or the artifacts housed in museums. But in a unique scenario like today, where we are unable to go to a museum, virtual museums may provide you with ways to enjoy these remarkable visual treats and performances. The benefits of a virtual museum are numerous. I have just demonstrated some of those qualities and how they can help us create an environment by bringing together cultural objects of myriad nature. this kind of juxtaposition is perhaps not that easy in a physical museum setup. It may be an expensive affair. Nevertheless, such shows will be accessible to only a limited audience. As against that, virtual museums are economical, have no parallels in terms of building bridges or networking of collections, which can be done at as wide a level as this world, or just within a small library or an archive. And therefore, with the web becoming a mine of big data and innovations happening in the IT field, that time is not far when the virtual museums become the future of the museum sector. And with this, I end here. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You really opened up a new dimension of the world of museums for us today. So we're very grateful for your talk. Now, I would like to move on to a level where we are adding a musical twist to the discourse. Our next guest, Mr. Sudhanva Ranade, is going to present a discussion on the sound of music from the Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum, Pune, Maharashtra in India. Mr.
Before
Sudhanva,
that, Samhita, can I say a word, please? Can I have
yes,
a word?
yes, of course.
Yeah. It's such a happy coincidence that Vandana gives us a wonderful peep into her virtual museum concept. And then she talks of Ragmala paintings. And then we flow into music again. Vandana, thank you so much. We're very grateful for your presence here today on our platform. And we do hope you enjoy the rest of the evening too with us.
I'm
Thank you.
delighted to be here. Thank you, Kedareshwari ji.
Over to you, Samhita.
Thank you, ma'am. So, Mr. Sudhanva Ranade, the grandson of late Dr. D.G. Kelkar, the founder of Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum, he holds the responsibility of the directorship of this glorious institution. He is a member secretary, board of management and executive committee at the museum. Since 1995, he has been completely involved in the development of the museum. In his vast career profile, he's gathered very rich and diverse national and international exposure. Mr. Sudhanva shares the credit of today's presentation with Momita Dhar. Momita is Assistant Curator at National Museum, New Delhi, and a very own young member of the society. So now I hand over my mic to both of you. Welcome, sir.
Does lead to the design.
I think you might have to share the screen again. We have some Zoom bombing on the presentation.
Is Sudhanva with us? He can start
Yes, he's there.
He can start the talk before that. He can start telling us about the museum.
So we can't really hear you. He's talking, but we can't hear you. Not yet. It's not audible yet. You might have to insert the earplug jack again one more time. Yeah. No, not yet.
So there he is.
I think yeah. Yes, now it's is it audible?
Yeah. We can't hear you, Sudhanva.
She should unmute.
Yes. No, he is unmute only. It's just that I think his earphones are not accepted.
Samita, you can give them some time to get over the technical glitches and we can carry on with some Satyakam's presentation.
Okay, sure, ma'am. So it's still continuing the musical tone only, but we'll take Sir Satyakam sir first. He's going to be talking about connecting museums and music globally. Mr. Satyakam Sen has lived his life in the glorious company of Ravindra Sangeet, Tagore's musical composition. Since 1992, he's involved with the Indian Museum, Kolkata, in curatorial responsibility of the archaeology section, and presently he heads the section. With a dynamic international exposure, he's also published several important articles. We are very glad to have you with us, sir, Mr. Satyakam Sen.
Thank you, Samhita, and I'm really grateful to Dr. Kedareshwari Madam for get such opportunity to speak over here. And I'm trying to share my screen with the PPT, with my PPT. So I'm working here in Indian Museum, Kolkata. You know, the oldest museum of the country, and if not the one of the oldest in the Asia Pacific region. So we have a very rich archaeological collections, you know, right from prehistory to medieval, early medieval artifacts. But one thing came to my notice, that is there are several stories can be made from our collections, and that can be shared during this pandemic period by way of sharing the virtual exhibitions on different stories, different subjects. And my focus is on the musical heritage of India, the musical scenes. There are several musical scenes and very interesting. In our museum, I have taken my museum as case study from 2nd century BCE during the Shunga period to as late as 15th century, that is Hampi in Karnataka. So as you know, why did I choose music as the story for connecting the rest of the world? Music, a universal expression of mankind, is a language which is capable of connecting any part of the world with another. It carries the message of emotion, love, peace, and harmony, and knows no barrier or boundary. Since music as a culture is intangible in nature, the only tangible evidences of different types of musical activities and the musical instruments itself. And the musical activities started in our subcontinent so far as the archaeological evidence is concerned, that is from the Mesolithic period. In and around the Bhimbetka region, you know, the Panchmari, Kathua, this is from Kathoria. The one scene is depicted, that is the hunting scene, and after successfully hunted their game, their food, they're enjoying their music with music and dance, and one male is sitting over there and playing on a harp like a string instrument. This is nothing but his bow and arrow. The hunting instruments became the musical instruments later on, adding multiple numbers of strings with different, with different length and with some different, the frequency and the pitch. So the bow, the hunting, the weapon of man has become the musical instrument. To my, the consideration, and after that, and we get another rock painting from Panchmari, which belongs to Chalcolithic period, much later. But after that, we come to Indian Museum, the first gallery, the Bharhut Gallery. And here you see the Yakshi is playing on a harp-like Bina, and which is as its reference in Natya Shastra Bharata, that is this, which is having 7 strings, you know, and playing on with her fingers only. It has got 7 strings, and this is nothing but the Chitra Bina. And this time, the Bharhut is in the period of Shunga kings, and the influence of Natya Shastra Bharata the influence was very, very, prominent in the musical activities so far we have found from the Bharhut sculptures. This is Chitra Bina. And another scene, you find that concert scene, they are also playing on Chitra Bina, and the drums, like the membranophone, is known as Kutapa, a set of 2 drums. One is vertically placed and one is horizontally placed, like tabla and baya, you know, tabla and duggi. But they were in different names. The whole set was known as Kutapa, according to the Bharatanatyam Shastra and the later Vedic texts. Next, the concert is going on. The Kutapa set with the Chitra Bina, but in the middle picture, you just there is a Bina, but they are playing it on with a plectrum like string, and it has got 9 strings instead of 7, and known as Bipanchi Vina, and it has got reference in Bharatanatyam Shastra. And another thing, there is another picture, just clapping the tala, you know, the clapping system to keep the rhythm. The practice was there in 2nd century or 1st century BCE. Why? Because there was a dance and dances. And my question is, does it suggest the basics of Bharatanatyam? The Bharatanatyam experts, the dance experts can answer it. And there is so many similarities, you know, with these depictions. And this part, that is a full concert is going on with music and dance and everything. Next, the dance. Just look at the posture. The lady and the depictions. The nymphs, the dance of nymph. All in 2nd to 1st century BCE. Next, we come to the Gandhara art. Gandhara art, you know, the from the beginning of the Christian era, from the Common Era to 6th century CE. And the influence of Greco-Roman art, very, I mean, a realistic form of art brought by the Greeks, and the Indo-Greek art. The theme was Buddhism, Indian Buddhism, but the treatment is Western. Here we find another concert in palace. Siddharth is sitting over there with his wife, the queen, and another lady is playing on a kutapa, the set of two drumming instruments, and also on her back, another lady is playing on a harp like veena. And this one is after the concert. The concert is over. Everybody was tired and they slept. A funny thing that, and now where we find Siddharth is playing on a different kind of musical instruments, which has got a fingerboard and a resonator, more developed, more improved version of string instruments. I think it had come from the Western world or the West Asian world, because this is some sort of instrument which is known as bauzouki in ancient Greek instrument, and bauzouki is a living instrument now, and this gentleman is playing on a bauzouki. Some sort of posture is similar to that Siddharth. So there are so many questions and so many suggestive, I mean, pictures are there. Siddharth playing on veena, not like Indian harp, but with multiple strings, but not as many as, I mean, the Chitra or Vipanchi veena, because they're more streamlined, and it has got picks on the other end to tune the instrument. Next, this is Amaravati panel procession with Buddha. Here we find again the fingerboard instruments and the flute, air-blown instruments, aerophone. This is of 2nd century CE. Just think that that period, the string instruments with fingerboard had already got entered to the Deccan part of the subcontinent. So, next, the Bhumara, 5th century CE. 5th century CE, Bhumara. We got several musical scenes, drumming scenes. This is membranophone, the parallel drums, and is another the metallophone playing on a the kartal or mandira like thing. That is metallophone. And another thing is very interesting, that I find it, this person with having a flower in his hand is an audience, a listener, very patient listener of what is playing by this person. Maybe I couldn't identify this instrument, maybe string instrument, but he is listening to his music, having a flower on his right hand. So this is very interesting. Maybe this is the audience that can be identified. Next, we come to the Eastern India, 11th, 12th century, musical scenes, dance and music. This is from Pabna, now in Bangladesh, pillar from Pabna, all in our collection. The Central India. The position of veena is some sort of diagonal, diagonal instead of horizontal. Now it is diagonal, and the veena, the shape, the form of veena is changed now. This is Haisala art from Halebidu, again from 12th century, air-blown instrument, aerophone. This is again metallophone, two metallic, cymbals, two hands, and the Tandava Nritta by Shiva. So this is the development we can identify. And now the last slide is the holy scene from Hampi. Beautiful. The panel is beautiful. I cannot show you properly. And my focus is on these two persons. This lady is playing on a parallel-sided drum and a blown instrument. So let us stop over here. And this is our archaeological treasure and the story of music, the musical heritage, that I could be able to find the story, and it can be shared through web series, the virtual exhibition with some sort of, the music is living art, so we can connect with some audio or video clips. It would be more attractive to the audience all over the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Ma'am, you want to say something?
Yes, Satika.
Yes,
For a technical glitch, we had you first due to a technical glitch. But now I realize this was the normal order. You have traced it right and brought it down to the 15th century. And now, another 5 centuries, and we are still presenting music, the musical instruments from Raja Kelkar Dinkar Museum, Dinkar Kelkar Museum. And what amazes me is that the drums, playing the drums, was already the domain of women.
Yes, madam.
Long before, much before. Yeah, that's one point I noted. And second is the way you have chronologically brought it and drawn our attention to it is really commendable. I wish you to work further on this subject because dance and sculptures, music and sculptures, they are so much in harmony with each other that geology has almost captured musicology, and Vandana has also presented ethnomusicology gallery. You present the archaeology aspect, and now we turn to again Sudhanva, if he is ready to present the instruments and the great musicians, the sound of music from the Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum.
Yes, we are waiting for that.
Yes. Maumita, is she ready, Samhita?
Yes. I think so. You can present, Maumita. I think we're ready for you.
Yeah, but
So you want to give it a try with the mic? No, we still can't hear you.
Let Maumita go alone then, if she can.
yeah, okay. So today we are going to discuss the collection of Indian renowned artist of Indian music, the sound of music from Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum, Pune, Maharashtra, India. So the Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum has a massive collection of different kind of musical instruments. Some instruments belong to maestro of Indian classical gharanas. So today we are going to show few of the musical instruments. So we have first Govind Rao Tembe. Govind Rao Tembe was from Kolhapur, Maharashtra. He was well known for harmonium playing. He was stage actor and music composer. He has composed several music for theater and Maharashtrian movies. And we can see that the harmonium used to play by Govind Rao Tembe. And Govind Rao Tembe was a self-taught harmonium player. Next, the Dinkal Kelkar Museum owns the tabla played by Ustad Allah Rakha Khan. Ustad Allah Rakha Khan is well-known tabla player. He frequently accompanies sitar player Pandit Ravi Shankar and largely responsible for introducing tabla to the Western music world. Ustad Allah Rakha Khan was disciple of Mia Qadir Bakhsh Khan and trained in Punjab Gharana as Patiala Gharana of music. Later in 1943, he started working in Bollywood film industry. Ustad Khan also collaborated with world-renowned musicians, with jazz drummer Buddy Rich, George Harrison, Ravi Shankar, Bilayat Khan. So next is Ali brothers, Salamat Ali Khan and Nazakat Ali Khan. The Ali brothers were from Pakistan, but they are known for their contribution to the Hindustani classical music. Salamat Ali Khan was influenced by Sufi devotional music genre called Khayal. He made Sham Chaurasiya Gharana famous in the Indian subcontinent. Both of the brothers were famous for their touring concert. Here we can see the Tanpura that belonged to Nazakat Ali Khan. Next, we have Pannalal Ghosh. Pannalal Ghosh was the flute player and popularized flute as a concert instrument. He was also music composer and introduced the seventh whole flute in Indian music. The flute played by Pannalal Ghosh is also kept in Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum. Purushottam Lakshman Das, also known as Purushottam Lakshman Deshpande, also known as P.L. Deshpande, was a Marathi writer, singer, scriptwriter, and music composer. He was the first person to interview the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru on Indian television. He received multiple awards, including Padma Bhushan and Maharashtra Bhushan. He was known for his expertise to play Sarinda. In this photographs, we can see the Sarinda, which is kept in Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum. Keshav Vaman Bole was well-known music player and film critic. He was an expert musician to play khol, a very Indian musical instrument. He was famous for his music composition in different Indian film, theatre. Bal Gandharva. Bal Gandharva was Marathi singer and stage actor. He started his career in bhajan singer. Bhajan is a form of devotional song. He also acted in 25 Marathi plays. He was awarded Sangeet Natak Akademi and Padma Bhushan Award. Bal Gandharva used to play tambori. Here we can see the tambori played by the Bal Gandharva, which is also kept in this museum. Next, we have Kiran Gharana. Now, what is Kiran Gharana? Kiran Gharana is the most prolific Indian classical khayal gharanas. The center concern of the Kiran style is swar, or individual notes. Some renowned maestro from the Kiran Gharanas were Pandit Sawai Gandharva. He was first and foremost disciple of Pandit Bhimsen Joshi. Pandit Hirabai Barodekar. She was chosen to sing the national song of India, Vande Mataram, from the Red Fort on the day India received independence. Suresh Babu Mane, he was expert in khayal, thumne, bhajan, and Marathi Natya Sangeet. Gangubai Hangal, she received Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan, Sangeet Natak Academy for her contribution to the Kiran Gharana and Indian music. Here we can see the Tanpuras played by all of these maestros. Also, this museum hosts a Tar Shehnai played by Pandit Madhukar Golwalkar. Tar Shehnai is very unique. It's a different kind. Though it's a Shehnai, but it has different features. It has something features close to violin. And we also have Sarangi played by Ustad Kader Baksh Khan. We are going to give you some tip to the rare musical instrument collection. Here we have Sarangi, Mayur or peacock sitar, Vichitra Veena, Panchmukh Vadyam, Gotu Vadyam, and Burmese harp. Burmese harp is considered as the national musical instrument of Burma. Over the time, Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum has emerged as a theatre hall of Indian music. This museum is actually keeping alive the intangible heritage of music by preserving its intangible remains. Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum has successfully bridged the gap between past and present, between tangible and intangible practices, and preserving Indian music for the rest of the world. So I'd like to urge, and Nana, on behalf of Nana Desar also, to visit this museum, our museum, and explore the great cultural heritage of India, also the local music of India, and please explore yourself. Maybe you'll find that you have musician within you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamita. Thank you so much.
Can I add a word? Yeah. Can I add a word, Samita?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so happy. After a very long time, I've seen some rare objects of the Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum. My association with this museum has been for since the ancient times, I can say, almost 25 years. And the fact that they hold such a treasure trove of musical instruments played by great maestros of India shows that we can, as for our future activities, we can weave a lot of stories out of this museum. And I must thank Sudhanvar Ranade. He has been very, enterprising in expanding the museum activities and developing the museum. Though, of course, they do suffer from some fun crunch. And we are offering our society's platform to further the cause of this museum and to take it to greater heights. You must have all noticed that we have called this series 1. We plan to cover most of the musical instruments as we discussed and bring it to light. And along with it, we do hope that we can promote and market the great Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum. I mean, the founder of this museum was a great visionary. So in tandem with his vision, we hope to, we really hope that this museum prospers and opens its doors globally because it has got a global content. Thank you. Thank you, Sudhanvar and Maumita. A beautiful presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Sudhanva, sir. So our next speaker is going to take us all the way from Indian music to Egypt, Mr. Ahmed Ibrahim Lotfi. He is a heritage officer in charge of the Egyptian Cultural Heritage and International Cooperation at Department ICOH, Ministry of Antiquities, Egypt, since 2001 till date. He's played an instrumental role in many landmark projects, such as participation in the development and rehabilitation of building in historical Cairo project, establishing a hall for the underwater antiquities in the Grand Egyptian Museum, and virtual reality project in Islamic Museum and sites for education. He'll be talking to us about the precautionary measures followed in Egyptian museums through the example of the Grand Museum as a model. So I would like to invite Mr. Lotfi on screen. We are really glad to have you with us, sir.
Good evening. I'm happy to be with you today. And we shall make a good presentation. And thank you, everybody, about the lectures and presentations. It's very nice to meet you today. Now I'm sharing my presentation. Give me a second. I don't know. I have a problem with to upload my presentation. Give me a second, please.
Sure, sure.
Okay. Okay. This is for
So we could see your screen for a minute. I think he's
Samhita?
got disconnected.
Yeah, Samhita, could you invite
Yeah.
some? Yeah.
I can invite Mr. Jonathan if it's fine with him. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to travel back to another direction and another location in the world. So Mr. Jonathan, sir, we'll take Mr. Jonathan and then we'll come back to you. Mr.
everyone. I don't know. I have a problem to upload my presentation. Can I try again, please, to upload it?
Yes,
Yes.
You, I think you can take your time, or you can send it to us. We can also put it up from here. Meanwhile, we can take Mr. Jonathan till then.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry for the disturbance, everyone. Mr. Jonathan Haryono, he belongs to Ulen Sentalu Museum, Yogyakarta, Java, Indonesia. Ulen Sentalu Museum is a private museum in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, and considered as one of the best museums in Indonesia. Ulen Sentalu Museum conserves and communicates the intangible heritage Java, focusing in art and culture. Mr. Jonathan is a junior curator of the museum, and with the research and curatorial department, he works in the education programs of the museums as well. Today, he's going to be talking with us about Becoming Roots, Ulen Sentalu Museum in 21st Century, Indonesia. We are very glad to have you with us, sir.
Thank you very much. Can you hear us? Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, perfect.
Yes, okay. A very good evening or afternoon in India time from Yogyakarta, Indonesia to Professor Rajiv Lohan, Professor Rajasri Mukabdait, and Dr. J. Kedareswari, honorable speakers, committee, and audience. And to start this talk, I'm very proud that Dr. J. Kedareswari, that we also have some audience from Indonesia. We have some museum professionals from Indonesia, especially from Yogyakarta, my own city. And to start our talk tonight, I want to share about what kind of museum are we? What kind of museum the Ulen Sentalu Museum? So I want to, if I may, I want to show a short video about our museum.
Yes, of course.
Is it already on the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Museum Ulen Sentalu berangkat dari sebuah keluarga yang mendirikan. Kemudian kami didukung oleh para kerabat dinasti Kerajaan Mataram yang ada 4, 2 di Jogja dan 2 di Solo. Nah, para kerabat tersebut memberikan hibah koleksi pribadinya. Jadi ini bukan koleksi dari keraton, tapi hibah dari para bangsawan. Ada pangeran dari Keraton Jogja, dari Istana Paku Alaman, kemudian dari Keraton Surakarta, juga ada putri dari Istana Mangkunegaran.
Ulen Sentalu adalah sebuah akronim dari kalimat bahasa Jawa ulating blencong sejatining tataraning lumaku. Dalam bahasa Indonesia berarti geliat sinar pelita untuk menyinari jalan hidup umat manusia.
Koleksi di Museum Ulen Sentalu itu match dengan environment, dengan alam lingkungan Ulen Sentalu yang ada di lereng Gunung Merapi. Karena bagi orang Jawa, Merapi itu kan gift, pemberian ya. Kita tinggal di sini itu seperti surga. Maka area ini kami namakan Dalem Kasuwargan. Koleksi kami ada di antaranya batik peninggalan mereka, kemudian ada karya intelektual berupa syair, berupa tulisan, yang itu menunjukkan bahwa tingkat keintelektualan dari kerabat kerajaan itu pada masa itu sangat tinggi.
Kami di sini menciptakan koleksi dan juga menciptakan satu konsep tour sehingga masyarakat yang berkunjung bisa mendapatkan satu pengalaman tour yang menyenangkan dan juga edukatif. Kalau dari seni budaya Jawa itu sifatnya intangible atau tak benda, jadi sangat mudah untuk tergeser kemudian hilang atau pudar di telan zaman.
Maka peran edukator, peran pemandu itu sangat penting. Wawasan dia sampai di mana, sampai menceritakan hal-hal sedetil, itu yang dibilang behind the scene, karena banyak cerita di museum kami ini tidak terpampang dalam buku sejarah, dalam buku teks literatur, karena kami menggali sendiri dari para pelaku. Satu koleksi itu sebetulnya nggak cukup kalau cuman dengan name text, dengan tulisan, karena penggaliannya banyak. Itu dia yang kemudian ada namanya repeater pengunjung. Di Ulen Sentalu itu merasa dapat feel ya, merasa homey, merasa aduh benar-benar dapat nuansa, benar-benar kayak dibawa seperti di masa koleksi-koleksi itu hidup. Seperti konsep jendela, jadi kita buka jendela, saya kayak Alice in Wonderland dulu, saya di abad 19, saya di tahun 1900, saya di masa putri-putri tersebut hidup, bahkan sampai ke masa kini. Karena nuansanya bangunan kami itu nyatu, ada bangunan modern art, ada bangunan klasik, jadi semua hal di Museum Ulen Sentalu itu nyambung. Dapatlah orang bilang feel-nya oke banget, oks banget gitu kalau anak milenial akan ngomong. Silahkan datang ke Museum Ulen Sentalu, eksplor lah. Kami tutup hanya di hari Senin, Selasa sampai Minggu, hari libur nasional pun kami buka.
Pesona Indonesia.
That was beautiful.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
When the pandemic is over, I'm coming.
I will wait for you, ma'am. I will wait for you, sure.
I will. Yes, it was beautiful.
Yes. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Your museum is living its culture.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a living culture.
It's a living culture, like Professor Rajiv said, that we try to become not just like a building, but a living thing that live our culture. Okay, I will, if I may, I will continue my talk. And before I present my short sharing about what kind of museum are we and how we adapt in this kind of situation, firstly, I want to express my condolence, my deepest condolence to your beloved country, India, in this pandemic situation. And I pray the situation is will be very better in the very near future. And I will start my presentation by sharing my slide. Okay, my presentation title is Becoming Roots, Ulen Sentalu Museum in 21st Century Indonesia, How Museum Anchors a Nation and Extends in the Global Village and New Normal. This is my contact number if you want to contact me, and also my email address. So this is my museum. Ulen Sental is an abbreviation from a Javanese word. It is Ulating Blencong Sejatining Tataraning Lumaku, or in English is a light as against a rightful way of life. So we try to conserve the heritage of Jawa, because we situate in Jawa. And as our honorable speakers and participants already know, that heritage is divided into two kinds, the tangible heritage and also the intangible heritage. The tangible heritage, I show you the picture of one of the great heritage in Indonesia, which is Borobudur Temple. We can visit it, we can touch the tangible heritage, but one of the valuable heritage that we have is the intangible heritage. In this slide, I show about one of the Javanese dance. It is called the Serimpi dance, were danced by the 9 dancers in the palace. And we, Ulen Sental Museum, we focus in the intangible heritage of Jawa, because it is quite complex I think everyone know that it's quite complex to conserve the intangible heritage, because we cannot touch it, we cannot see it, but we can feel and sense it. And in Jawa, we are very easy to sense the intangible heritage in the society, like how we value things, how we value our life, about norms, about beliefs, about art and culture. Everything in the corner in Jawa, in Yogyakarta, in Jawa, we can sense the intangible heritage. And it is very complex to conserve the intangible heritage, because like everybody know that if we have like a more popular culture, then the intangible heritage will be like, people will abandon our intangible heritage. One thing that it's quite interesting in Jawa is that an unbroken and a continuous historical line. In these slides, I show some pictures of the monument of the history in Jawa. This one is the Prambanan Temple, one of the great temple in Indonesia. It is also situated in Yogyakarta, and it is quite unique because it is a temple, a Hindu temple for the 3 gods in Hindu. For God Shiva, for God Brahma, and for God Vishnu. I hope that the audience from India, if the COVID is already passed, you can visit this beautiful temple in Yogyakarta. I want to tell the story that in Jawa, we start the history with the Indian penetration with the Hindu Buddhist culture in the 6th century, but then it continued with the Muslim civilization, the Islamic period in the 16th century, and then we have the European, which is the Dutch colonialism era in the 17th century, and then Indonesia independence in the 1945. And through this kind of part of the history, our research department researched that there is an unbroken link between each kind of this history. Every kingdom, we have numerous kingdoms that rule over Jawa, but each kingdom always try to connect with the previous kingdom. They always claim that they are the genealogical line. There is a genealogical line between among these kingdoms, and it is also what we think that this one is like the foundation of the Java to have like a very complex intangible heritage because of this unbroken history and civilization. Not just from the historic era, but also from the prehistoric era. Our archaeologists in Indonesia uncovered there are a huge population of Homo erectus, the first form of human, and also the Homo sapien, the previous form of a human, because we are now the Homo sapien. This one is the former form, which is the Homo sapien, and this is one is the Homo erectus. And we believe that there is a prehistoric civilization and also culture in our land in Jawa. So this unbroken and continuous history from the prehistoric to the historic period in Jawa make us the Javanese Jawa, make us us. And it also shaped the art and the culture in Jawa, then that also more that later become more intangible than tangible heritage. So these pictures are taken from the past history of Java. We have dance, we have music also, we have ceremonies, we have batik, we have wayang performance. And all of this art and culture is not just a form of art. It tells the story, the teaching of the religion or the belief or the life philosophical. And all of them are the intangible heritage of Java. So through I realized that the art and culture of Java is more intangible than tangible. Then we start to create our own collection. So it is quite different with another museum, that the other museum conserve the heritage from the past civilization. We create our own collection to tell the story about our history. So we create paintings, we create the educated or the guided tour system. So the educator can tell the stories about each collection and the stories behind of each collection. And in the process, we realized that this kind of guided tour system is really effective for the Indonesian people. All the visitors are very enthusiastic to have education in our tour system. But right now we have a pandemic. All of us also suffer because of this pandemic. And this pandemic makes us close our door. It's quite burdensome for us in Ulen Setelah Museum because we closed since March 2020 until September 2020. And in this kind of new normal situation, I want to rephrase one of the great thinker in the communication theory. His name is Marshall McLuhan. He proposed the idea of global village in the year 1970. And what is the meaning of the global village? Global village is the situation when when all of us in this world become like a very big village through the communication and technology system. The global issue become our own issue because all of us in the world share the same issue. We can see it like the movement of the Black Lives Matter and something like that, that it becomes the global issue. In one side, it is very positive because we can share information through all the world. But in the other side, it is quite negative because when the global and popular issue become more important for us in our country, then we can live what situation in the country that we have. And also it's same with the culture. If there is a global, more popular, more global culture, then all the people started to try to embrace the global culture and abandon our own culture. And that is one of the situation that we in Ulen Setelah Museum deals, that we want to make our own young generation also think that they need to feel comfortable, or they need to feel positive with their own culture and not just get mixed in the global village. This image is one of the photo in our museum. I believe all of you know that this is from the Hindu-Buddhist period of Java. It is one of the relief from one of the panel from the Borobudur temple that we enlarged. It is the story of Sudana that he learned to a lot of teachers, that he want to know a lot of lesson, a lot of knowledge, so he can reach the final form. And we make this panel slide down because it is like one of the critique to ourselves, that if we do not support our culture anymore and we try to reach the global culture, then our own culture will become down and will be sinking down. And that is what is our museum do, that we want to conserve and communicate our culture to the young generation. So in this new normal situation, what our museum do? We realize that education is like one of the basis of our museum. We create the educational tour, and then when the museum is closed, what happened? We started to, like all of the museum do, we started to shift our educational program into a virtual program. We started to create blogs and vlogs. Our researcher write articles and post it in our blog, and also make some short video about our museum, so we can reach more people, even the non-visitors, so everybody knows about our museum. The second one is virtual class. Before the pandemic, we regularly have school visit, and because of the pandemic and until right now in Indonesia, schools are not open yet. So we created a virtual class. So we go to school virtually. We discuss with teachers what kind of curriculum that the students need, and we started to develop a personalized curriculum for the students. And we hope that the students realize that they have a very, very valuable culture in the past, and they embrace it. And the third one, we started to create an e-library application. It is for the visitor that can visit our museum. They can have an apps, and all of the research we did, we put it in the e-library so people can access it and realize that we have a very great information about our culture and our history. Now, I want to go back to my title and as the conclusion of my talks. I think that our museum, and I believe that all of the museum should be becoming roots. We need to go deeper. What I mean about deeper is we need to go dig deeper about our history, not just our past history, but in the very, very past history, we need to go very deep, so we can bring all the value, all the culture, all the great things about our past to this to the new generation. And as same as the roots bring all the nutrients for the growth of the tree, our museum try to become to bring also nutrients to the young generation, so they can grow in a very good way. And the second one is roots also can go wider. We, in this kind of situation, we need to go wider by, like I believe Professor Rajiv Lokhan also said that we need to be creative and use technology to go wider. And I'm very mesmerized also about the virtual museum that the former presenters told us about, and it is the right time for us museum to think creatively, to go wider, to grasp more people, even our non-visitors. Thank you very much. Terima kasih in my language.
Terima kasih, Mr. Jonathan, from ourselves to you too. It was a lovely presentation, and I think I can speak for everybody, is that you've taken us back to our own Indian roots and thoughts, which talks about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which is a philosophy that says the whole world is a family, and the approach towards moving on can really be rooted there as well. Thank you so much for your time and your input.
Thank you so much.
I'll take Mr. Lotfi now. We have his presentation and it's all set. So,
hello.
Hello.
Hello again. I'm sorry about last problem in presentation.
No problem,
hello.
Hello.
Hello. How?
So I have your screen up. You can tell me to press next and I'll go forward.
Okay.
So can you see the screen?
Yes, I see the screen. Yes, it's okay. Can I start?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay. Thank you for this chance to be with you today. Today we're talking about precautionary measures followed in Egyptian museum, Grand Museum as a model. In the first, I need talking about in 2020 we was approaching to open a lot of museums like Grand Museum, Nemek in Egypt, and a lot of museum in all cities in Egypt, because we make a lot of investment in museums. Okay. And we trying to sharing community and visitor engagement, okay, in the museum, because we open the museum for them. So in 2020, we found the corona, and that make a shock for us, and that make a problem to open all of this museum in same time. And because we care about the health of persons and workers, and that make us make a slogan: we never stop facing COVID in our ministry. Okay. So we started to creating new departments for crisis management and training to face it corona. Okay. So how we make the museum is facing corona. We preventing the spread of infection among workers. Second, we take the necessary and quick measures with the cases of injury that appear among the workers in the museum, striking a balance between the necessity of taking preventive measures and the museum workflow. At last, using social media and movies and TV to keep visitors and workers informed before we can open any museum. Of course, establishing a temporary clinic to examine corona, and as you see in the short in rapid test or PCR test, we just found maximum 10% from all workers have a corona, and we care about them. So that measure make us to have a carry to open the museum, like Baradi of royal mamas in Nemek. I wish you will seen our opening in this time, and after conducting a daily check of workers before starting, as well as measuring. Second, please, second slide. Conducting a daily check the workers before starting, as well as measuring temperature of visitor by laser thermometer. Okay. These photos from Grand Museum. We will open next year, inshallah. Second one, please. Passage of all workers and visitors through the sterilization room. Okay. Also, we ensure social distancing between workers and visitors. Second, please. Disinfection and sterilization of museum 3 times every day, in all the day. all facilities, officers, yards in the museum before we open, and in the middle of the on the day, and in the last of the day. Okay. What's the safety measures we take? First, we make a second, please. We make leaflets, posters, and instructive signs to spread the awareness, not to shake hands in the museum, communication to wearing, communities of to wearing a mask, correct ways to wash hands. Second, providing masks and sterilization materials for all workers and visitors. Second, we suspending emergency numbers, pallets, and the competence authorities for any complement. Second, in ensuring the number of time cleaning the toilets and halls and offices for all to keep the people in safe always. Establishing a system to prevent crowding between employees and visitors. Establishing a monitoring system to ensure that everyone adheres to the producers. Okay, like the second, please, second slide. As you see, we cleaning every day, every place in the museum, and also keep everybody have space between us. Okay, so that all of these procedures make us can open the NEMIC museum, and we preparing now to open new museum, is a grand museum, Jam, in Egyptian civilization. So I think also that we can use this problem in COVID to make more procedures to make awareness, and use the digital and digital guide like a virtual reality in the museum. We depended on, we make a lot of tours in Islamic museum, make a lot of work to make awareness in the schools, to visit the museum in class or in house. You can share us our civilization every time by digital use. Okay, second, please. That I'm finished my presentation, and if anybody have a question.
Well, Mr. Lotfi, it was a fantastic presentation showing how you operate your museums even during the pandemic. It's these operational standards are really commendable. I think you are setting an example for the museum world, how you run your museums in spite of the pandemic and you welcome the visitors. So I think this is a one of its kinds presentation on the platform today, and we're really thankful to you for joining us all the way from Egypt. India has a great number of Egyptian antiquities. We have 7 Egyptian mummies in our country. So some other time I'll share this all information with you. And it was a great honor to have you. Namaste. But please stay on and enjoy enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful presentation. Moving on to the next one, our international guest, Ms. Yulia Dolinina. She's from Cultural Heritage Agency, which is known as RCE in Netherlands. She's a Russian freelancer art historian, museologist, and researcher based in Amsterdam. She specializes in Dutch and Flemish painting and graphics of the 16th and 17th centuries and performance-based art. Her curatorial practice concerns classical curatorship with new approaches to collection management. And in her work field, she incorporates her scientific and artistic skills for creating new contextual layers as a curatorial reflection on existing culture, heritage, and sites of memory. We're very happy to have you here, Yulia. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really grateful to the organizing committee. I will start my presentation. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yes. So good day, everyone. It is still a day in the Netherlands, and happy International Museum Day. As Amir already said, I'm Yulia Dolenina, and I'm a Russian art historian and museologist residing in the Netherlands. In the light of this conference theme, I would like to present a case study organization of sharing stories on contested histories international training program that took place in April 2021 that I have coordinated as a freelancer within the Cultural Heritage Agency of the Netherlands. The international training sharing stories on contested histories was jointly organized in 2018, 2019, and 2021 by the Cultural Heritage Agency of the Netherlands, RC shortly, and the Rijnwoord Academy within the International Heritage Cooperation Program. This national program, executed by the Cultural Heritage Agency and the National Archives of the Netherlands, Dutch Culture, Dutch Center for Intangible Cultural Heritage, and the embassies of the Netherlands in the focus countries. The program has been devised in close cooperation with various organizations in focus countries. These are Australia, Brazil, India, Indonesia, Japan, the Netherlands, Russia, Suriname, Sri Lanka, the United States of America, and South Africa. Here you can see a title of my presentation, Building a Community of Practice Online. Sorry, I should have mentioned it earlier. And my contact details. The program proposed to set up a community of practice by bringing young heritage professionals from 10 partner countries and the Netherlands together to explore new ways of discussing and presenting contested heritage of our shared pasts. Intangible heritage such as food, traditions, language, and tangible heritage such as buildings, objects, all bear traces of our shared history between the Netherlands and other countries. This heritage may represent individual, communal, and national identity. It can represent values, memories, emotions. It can bind us together and help us understand one another, offering joy, peace, and restoration. And it can be a burden too, because much of this heritage is rooted in painful histories of coloniality. In the Netherlands and elsewhere in the world, heritage organizations become more driven by the pressing need to find new ways of discussing and presenting these shared histories and associated with its heritage, incorporating multi-perspectivity, inclusivity, and participation. It is because a shared history may offer us shared futures. In this training, we build a network of like-minded professionals to discuss our shared past, share responsibilities surrounding cultural heritage, and look for possible shared futures, all with empathy, mutuality, and respect. This training aims to offer the heritage field benefits from experts exchanges on an international level. So the previous two editions of 2018 and 2019 were gathering participants from 10 partner countries in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. But because of the pandemic and for the safety reason, the 2021 training has been reworked completely into an online version by the organizing team. Two project leaders, Arjen Kok from the Cultural Heritage Agency, Ruben Smith from the Rijnwaard Academy, and coordinator Iris Volkers from the Cultural Heritage Agency, and myself. In April 2021, the third edition of the 2 weeks program hosted 24 participants located in 8 different time zones. Taking into consideration this time challenge, we had divided participants into 4 teams. 2 in the Eastern time frame, as you can see in the yellow here is a screenshot from our program, and 2 in the Western time frame, in blue. We used midday Central European time for the world to come together. We do realize it is a traditional a sort of divide, but mobility of our participants allowed us to host people that from India located in somewhere in the time frame of the West, and vice versa. So it allowed us to have diversity within the groups. So the program has officially started with a welcoming speech by Ingrid van Engelshoven, Minister of Education, Culture and Science, who encouraged participants to be brave in their discomfort, furthering their discussion on how to present difficult aspects of heritage from multiple perspectives. This training consisted of virtually visiting heritage organizations, examining specific case studies and key materials, watching and discussing pre-recorded and live lectures, and having in-depth discussions and workshops with heritage professionals and scholars. The core of the training program is working on an assignment, dilemmas provided by a heritage organization acting as a client. Before the training has started, we have sent our participants around the world welcoming goodie boxes, hard copies of key materials, as well as souvenirs such as mugs, pens, tote bags, all these kind of souvenirs that just had to add, they just had to add a feeling of comfort to this online training. In this edition, the Rijksmuseum, the National Museum of the Netherlands, has been acting as a client. The Rijksmuseum has organized its first exhibition on slavery, titled Slavery, 10 Stories. And the curatorial team here on the picture, Valike Smulders, Maria Holtrop, Stephanie Archangel, Evelyn St. Nicholas, have invited the participant to reflect on the dilemmas, challenges the history curators have been encountering while preparing the exhibition. And besides the Rijksmuseum, the training have joined other partner organizations such as Amsterdam Museum, the National Archives, Tropen Museum, Mauritshuis, the Black Heritage Tours. To dive into the context of each organization's participants were asked to view specifically, specially produced for this online training, interviews with professionals representing these organizations, as well as to read key materials. Regularly, participants would go to museums and talk in person and having these discussions in person with heritage professionals. We have also offered pre-recorded lectures with scholars from the Rijnwaard Academy and the Cultural Heritage Agencies, and also hosted live lectures and workshops. and having discussions and Q&As with scholars and professionals. All these materials examined in the training offer frames for and modes of looking at the issue of contested heritage. On the last day of the program, participants have gathered in the virtual studio of the Cultural Heritage Agency to discuss their findings during the training and presented reflections on the dilemmas for the Rijksmuseum and for the virtual audience. The recording of this final event and an article about it maybe you can find on the website of the Cultural Heritage Agency. So in the light of the theme of this conference, I would like to spotlight, and the Museum Day, I would like to spotlight the challenge of working on sensitive subject matter of disputed and contested heritage in times of our current collective experience of the pandemic. The very nature of working on this subject matter lays in finding ways to overcome difficulties in understanding each other, seeking to outline our possible shared and sustainable futures. This makes it imperative to ground the idea of mutuality for all participants of the training and become a community of practice from the moment of the training onwards. I would like to offer my reflection on facilitating the development of interpersonal relationships with the community of practice during the online training edition. This I would take into comparison to my experience as a trainee in the real life edition in 2019 in Amsterdam. In the previous edition as a trainee, I have experienced the learning journey in lecture rooms, sharing stories over a meal, or during a walk, or within the walls of heritage organizations. As a coordinator of this online edition, I was concerned with the challenge of creating an environment that can facilitate construction of these interpersonal relationships as much as it would be with direct communication, face-to-face communication. In this sense, I was conscious about the restrictions that online environment might have on our body language and therefore on our communication and understanding of each other. And here you can see this edition of 2021 on the first slide and on the first picture, and how it was in 2019. Approaching the challenge of building a community of practice online, we have started from setting up a safe, non-hierarchical space where we can be brave to communicate in an open-minded and empathetic manner, all of us being students and teachers at the same time. For this, we have established some basic rules to foster an open exchange of ideas when working and discussing in intercultural group. The next step was getting to know each other individually. What are our interests, passions, and dreams? What are our professions, and what represents contested heritage in our work field? For this, we use personal posters, and as you can see, here is an example on the first picture. As the participants were divided in 4 teams working at times separately in Eastern and Western time zones, we have asked them to be creative and produce something that represents them as a group, create an anthem or a flag or a slogan or a theme, encouraging them in this way to look for something common while being sensitive to the diversity. At the core team of 4 managing learning environment in the different time zones, we could not oversee all the processes that were taking place in the working teams. In all this process of building and maintaining this working space, we were highly assisted by our 6 coaches who provided heritage contents of the Netherlands and in general, much needed for the participants who were not able to see it in the real life, as well as facilitating and supporting learning and organization processes. And my fellow colleague here, an alumni of 2019, Jonathan Hariona, who just presented his case study, has performed in this training the role of the senior coach, overseeing all the learning processes for the 2 teams in the East time frame, which I'm very thankful for. And another step and challenge to consider was facilitation of discussions and participation within an online environment. It is no secret that it is easier to facilitate direct face-to-face communication that leads to the highest rate of participant satisfaction. How do we check our well-being when discussing such sensitive subjects such as disputed and contested heritage in the new normal? In this regard, I want to highlight the importance of incorporation of restorative practices in our daily work that are very common for the resolving conflicts, working with traumas, building, maintaining, and repairing communities and relationships. As a growing community of practice in the midst of the training, we have naturally came to acknowledge that we cannot separate our personal from our professional, that disastrous and upsetting events are taking place around the world and in the countries we live in. In one session, when we all of us came together to discuss how things are proceeding, we have created a circle, a brave space for everyone to share how things are, how they are feeling and what is on their minds, passing on the virtual mic to one another. To my experience in these restorative sessions, acknowledgement of one's feelings, thoughts, and truths is far more important than finding all the answers and solutions. Hearing from the participants, I learned that such unplanned sessions offered them much needed comfort and support. We have also entrusted coaches to organize some silly informal activities such as drawing and singing. Yeah, they came up with a playlist, for example, for waiting in the lobby, making a playlist of favorite songs of the participants. As well, they organized fun drawing sessions. And one of the trainees has suggested to also organize some informal coffee chatting in the virtual environment that you can see on the picture here, where you can just roam around and find some groups to chat with. As alumni of the training, and I am very grateful to have this community of practice that always offers support, understanding, advice, and wisdom, even though most of the time online. I'm hoping to see it grow with each year, connecting like-minded people around the world who are eager to make space in the heritage field for many voices. These communities of practice and networks are there to remind all of us that heritage work is cannot and should not be done in isolation, especially in these strange times. And for the last words, I would like to thank you, the organizing committee, for inviting me to speak today. I'm honored to be here, and I'm learning very much from all of you. And I also would like to thank my organizing team of Sharing Stories and the director of International Heritage Cooperation Program, Gina Smith, for providing me with an opportunity to work on this project. Thank you so much, and stay healthy and safe.
Thank you so much, Julia.
Presentation. It threw some light on presenting contested heritage. That's quite a challenging one. And in fact, it's quite frightening also, a frightening domain. Challenging and presenting, I mean, I have faced it. There is a lot of contested history and heritage in India too. So someday I think we should share a platform to share our views on it, along with your other colleagues. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the phase 1 of our event. I apologize that we're running a little bit quite behind time, but we'll just go faster. Now we are moving on to the Katha Bharat event and logo launch. I would like to invite the president of our society, Bharatiya Dharma Evam Sanskriti, Dr. J. Kedareshwari, for doing the honors. As a part of that presentation, a video clip is going to be played, which is sent by Dr. Avadhadu Garu. Dr. Garu is a computer scientist and Sanskrit scholar, founder of Sri Ved Bharati Trust, and a recipient of President's Appreciation for transcription of our country's great heritage and treasure trove, the Vedas, into computer media. So that video will be a part of ma'am's presentation. Dr. J. Ketareshwari.
Thank you very much, Samhita. It has been a great evening, a great start with a warm welcome address by Kalyani and Rajiv, a dynamic keynote address which continued to roll the wheels of the webinar. And with this, I would like to congratulate all the participants for the very good presentations. In fact, mind openers also. And we as a society launched ourselves on 18th April, almost a month ago. And today we are launching the first and foremost platform, an important platform, Katha Bharat. Some of the webinar participants can still contribute to this platform also. Katha Bharat is Indian stories. Why do we need to launch this? My 3.5 decades of museum experience as an educator exposed me to the fact that children and young adults are the greatest receptors of new ideas, heritage, and culture. So if we can catch them young and we can, build a sort of an awareness for our heritage, a respect for our heritage, we can go a long way in preserving and protecting our heritage and hand it down to posterity. Now, how do we do this? We do this by storytelling based on historical research facts which will expose our heritage, our cultural traditions, tangible and intangible heritage to one and all. And by the narration will connect the children to monuments, sites, antiquities, tourism destinations, and apart from moral values of everyday living, especially Indian living. We live our faith. We follow the Sanatana Dharma. We live our faith. So this is what we want to once again, bring to the forefront. As our great friend Jonathan told us, we want our roots to go deeper. We want to spread it. And in spreading, we want to use our media, the storytellers, storytelling, and our receptors, the young audience. With this, may I request Samhita to launch the logo, please. Now, why have we chosen this logo? We have drawn this logo from the boyhood feats of the Lord Balakrishna, the young Lord Krishna. And what was our aim in doing this? We wanted to teach children, spread awareness about sharing our own planet, our fragile ecological system, to protect this, which is being destroyed at a very fast pace, spread the message of peace, happiness, and benefit of living in harmony with all living beings. This logo was drawn and adopted from this woodcut painting you can see on the screen. This woodcut painting is a 19th century woodcut painting. It's in the collection of the Victoria Memorial Hall, a museum in Kolkata under the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. You can see it on the right-hand side upper corner. After that, we modified this logo to include water and fish. This logo, the feats of Lord Krishna have been depicted in different media, in 2D, 3D paintings, Mughal miniatures. They abound in our museums. So we can connect the children with museums through this logo. We can show them the importance of the flora, the fauna, the ecological cycle, and how to preserve this, how to preserve our planet too. The next slide, please. The logo was modified a bit into a line drawing. You can notice that. And then we want to present the origin of our existence. The origin of our existence is seeking refuge on planet Earth and protection. Who gives us this protection? Now let us hear Dr. Avadhan Lugaru, one of the greatest Sanskrit scholars we have, who's been transcribing the Vedas into different languages, into English and Telugu, and let us hear it from his own self.
The subject of Sharanagati. Sahudeva Prapannaya Tavasmiti Yachate Abhayam Sarva Bhutebhyaha Dadamyetad Vratam Mama. This is the Sharanagati Shloka from Valmiki Ramayana. Its meaning is a refugee who seeks asylum at the lotus feet of the Lord, even if it is a rare act, will be given full-fledged protection by the Lord against all other beings of the universe. This is his eternal woe. In accordance with this principle only, Nanda, Yashoda, and all other cohabitants of Gokulam were saved by Lord Krishna from the non-stop intense rainfall for a period of 7 days caused by the outrage of Devendra using his deadly cloud by name Samvartaka. For this purpose, the Lord performed the unusual act of lifting the Govardhana mountain and keeping it on his little finger for all the 7 days. Yes.
When we adapted this logo, this hill, which is called the Govardhan Hill, it is situated, it's a long ridge standing 30 meters above the surrounding land, 21 kilometers from Vrindavan in the Mathura district. Lord Krishna is associated with Vrindavan, Mathura, and our faith. And you can see the river Yamuna in these maps. And these two places, it's also called Braj Bhumi. They are located on the banks of the river Yamuna. Here you get a beautiful view of Vrindavan on the banks of river Yamuna and Mathura on the banks of the same river. These are early morning views. So here we can speak of the river, the culture, the living traditions. This is the Lord, and you can see all the people seeking refuge, praying to him. This is a three-dimensional presentation in a place called Prem Mandir in Uttar Pradesh near Vrindavan. Here you can see Lord Krishna holding the Govardhangiri high almost for 7 days to protect the people from the rage of the rain god, who's called Devendra. This is the Prem Mandir Mathura, from where this three-dimensional view was taken and adopted. And finally, we have the line drawing logo for Katha Bharat, the platform which we have prepared to present our stories, Indian stories, including the Indian Panchatantra, Jatakas, folklore, tribal tales, etc. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like everyone to follow up on the events of Bharatiya Dharohar Evam Sanskriti, and we will be launching the next schedule about Katha Bharat events soon. Now I would like to invite, give me just a second. Now I would like to invite Ms. Lavanya Srinivas and Ms. C. Mangalam Senthil for taking us into the world of Govardhan Girdhari through the medium of storytelling. Their organization, Katha Kamamishu, is a storytelling training and a research center based in Chennai. Lavanya Srinivas, its founder and director, is a story educator and performance storyteller. Mangalam Senthil is a professional storyteller and TEDx speaker from Coimbatore. Ms. Lavanya Srinivas and Mangalam Senthil. Ma'am, you're on
mute. I'm the mighty force. I am the force with my Vajrayudha, the Lord of the heavens. All the people of the universe pray to me for rains. And you, the people of Gokulam, you have ignored me. You have stopped worshipping me, believing the words of that naughty little cowherd. You have ignored me. I will play havoc with your lives. See what I will do. Samvartaka, go. Go. Play havoc. Go.
Okay, so are you wondering why Lord Indra is so angry? It goes back to that time when the people of Vraj and Mathura were happily gearing up for the Indrotsav. So they had made all their preparations and they came to meet their chieftain Nand Maharaj. Nand Maharaj, the preparations are almost done and we are waiting. What next? Just then, little Krishna comes out and he asks, Baba, why is the Indrotsav celebrated? Oh, we celebrate the Indrotsav to thank Lord Indra for the lovely rains he gave us last year and to pray that he gives us enough rain for this year too. He helps us. So, we pray to him. Baba, if we have to thank someone who helps us, it is the Govardhan hill. It provides for all our needs. The cattle get enough fodder there and it gives us rain too. So, don't you think the Govardhan should be prayed? Huh? Don't say that. Indra will not like it. No, my dear little one. No. But Krishna being Krishna, he convinced everybody and all the people geared up for celebrating the great Govardhan hill. They prepared beautiful delicacies, delicious dishes, rice porridges, rice cakes, and so many milk sweets and whatnot. And they offered everything to their Govardhan. And after that, they offered all that to their cattle also so lovingly. And then everybody ate the prasad. Everyone ate the offerings which were given. Then they all dressed up very well and they played, they cuddled, and they really had a nice time with the cattle and they prayed to it. And then the entire village went circumambulating the big, beautiful Govardhan hill. Now, while all the people in Vraj and Mathura were very happy, somebody was not happy. You people are enjoying there. You people have forgotten to pray to me this year. I will make you realize what a big mistake it was. And so Indra called the Samvartaka clouds and he said, go, rain mercilessly on Vraj and Mathura. And so, the winds blew, thunder and lightning rocked the place, and it started raining. It poured. Sheets of rain came down to the earth. The grass got covered. The stones, the rocks, they all got covered. Slowly the water level rose, and then the trees, the plants, the shrubs, they all got covered. There was water everywhere. Trees uprooted, floated. Cattle were almost drowning. There was water everywhere. Now people ran to their Nand Maharaj's house. Nand Maharaj, please do something. Please. Just then, Krishna comes out. He smiles and he says, "Worry not. Please follow me." And he led everyone to the beautiful Govardhan hill. He put his palms under the hill and he lifted it up with the ease a baby lifts a mushroom. And he picked it up high and he placed the hill on the tip of his finger. And all the people of Mathura ran under that hill and sought refuge. It continued to lash outside. A day passed, another day passed. 7 days and 7 nights. It rained continuously. Now, Indra saw, this boy is not an ordinary cowherd. Giridhara Govinda Gokula Bala Paramananda. He was indeed the divine Lord Krishna himself. He realized his mistake. He called back the Samvartaka clouds. The rain stopped. The clouds cleared. The water level receded. And all the people took their cattle and their belongings and headed home happily.
So Krishna not only protected the people and the cattle of Gokula, but every little life around him. The insects, the snakes, the fish, the birds, the animals, and the flora and the fauna. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kedareshwari ma'am, for giving us this wonderful opportunity.
Our pleasure to have you on board with us. Thank you very much. That was a very enthralling performance. Thank you so much.
Thank
Samhita, over to Samhita.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for such a beautiful and engaging rendition of the story. So we can say that as a sneak peek, Katha Bharat is going to be an initiative which actually takes all various stories from our country to various kind of audiences, especially young adults. Now, this brings us to the last phase of our evening today. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be announcing the next events and the Katha Bharat schedule soon. I'm going to be posting our contact details in the chat so everybody can follow us up and keep a track of the events. Now, I would like to invite Professor Rajashri Mukhopadhyay to deliver the formal vote of thanks for the evening. Professor Rajashri is a Tagore National Fellow at the prestigious Indian Museum, Kolkata, and Professor of Art History, NIFT, Kolkata. Professor Rajashri.
Thank you, Samhita. I hope you can hear me.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, wonderful evening. And finally, we are ready for the vote of thanks. Distinguished panelists, respected President Dr. J. Kedareshwari, honorable member, and dear audience. On behalf of Bharatiya Dharohar Evam Sanskriti, I take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks at the end of this wonderful international webinar, marking the celebration of International Museum Day. I am immensely thankful to our keynote speaker, Professor Rajiv Lochan, who has more than 2 decades of experience, particularly as the former director of NGMA. Sir, you have rightly pointed out that creative, inventive, and proactive approaches are needed.
We need to look for effective solutions in a new paradigm through collective and collaborative efforts. And the cultural aspect of museology can be dynamic. I would like to extend hearty thanks to our foreign friends, Yulina Dolinina from Netherlands, Jonathan Hariano from Indonesia, and Mr. Ahmed Lofti from Egypt. While Yulina shared the story of building the practice of online community on contested history, Mr. Jonathan shared with us the present status of Ulan Sentalu Museum. We had this wonderful 3-minute presentation on his museum, which was very, very engaging, and how it anchors the nation and extends in the global village. Mr. Lofti made us aware of the precautionary measures being followed in Egyptian museums following the Grand Museum as a model. My deep gratitude to the esteemed Indian panelists, Dr. Arvind Mahajan, Dr. Vandana Sinha, Mr. Sudhanshu Ranade, and Mr. Satyakam Sen. Each of you enlightened us on the needs of the hour and gave valuable suggestions on how to engage with audience during pandemic and the post-pandemic world. Mr. Arvind Mahajan highlighted the basic relevance of museums in the present new normal, the importance of digital literacy, and Dr. Vandana Sinha talked about the virtual museum, the shape of things to come in future. She also gave us a sneak peek into her very interesting Center for Archaeology and Ethnomusicology and see how it has been arranged, especially like the Ragmala bit, where the music and the painting has been coupled together. Yeah, magic of music echoed in Mr. Ranade and Momita's presentation about the musical instruments from Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum, Pune. And Mr. Satyakam Sen, a most cordial colleague from the Indian Museum, Kolkata, connected the archaeological collection of Indian museums depicting instruments and the music globally. That was really very interesting. I would especially thank our beloved president, Dr. J. Kedareshwari, who is the guiding spirit of this organization for the launch of the fantastic Katha Bharat project. Yes, storytelling is the core of Indian culture. Like we have it in every region. We have always been a land of Shruti and Shriti, while the oral histories and the oral traditions have been very important. So, and the continuous engagement, encouragement on exploring new horizons of heritage. Thank you, madam. My deep sense of appreciation for the storytelling team, Lavanya Srinivas and C. Mangalam Senthil. It was such an engaging presentation. And for the moment, we were transported to the world of Govardhan Giri and Krishna Leela. My thanks to the organizing committee, especially Momita Dhar, for your organizing skills and involvement. Kalyani Prasad, who welcomed us warmly at the very beginning. And of course, Samhita Gandhi for the efficient anchoring of the program and the technical support. Last but not the least, thank you, dear audience, who listen to us live and those who will watch us in YouTube in future. It is your presence that makes this event successful. Wishing you all a good night and we will meet again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. I would just like to request all of you to attend National Anthem at the end of it. I'm going to play it, so I would request everybody to just attend it with me.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you, everyone, and I wish you a very good night. We've taken your extra time, and thank you so much for being with us till the end.
Thank you, Samita. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, Samita, very much. Thank you very much. I have no words to thank you. You have anchored it perfectly. Thank you so much. Thank you, one and all. Wish you all a good night, and especially to my international friends, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stay safe and take care.
Thank you very much. Nice meeting you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you in New York.